Welcome. We are doing a live event and it's all themed Halloween. And for the entire month of October, we are doing Halloween kind of themed projects here on our platform. So make sure that you go in and look at all the wonderful patterns and links and you don't want to miss a single event. So make sure that you jump in and find out all the different fun things. I even saw a couple of knitted project and a felt project that looked really fun. So jump in and enjoy the Halloween season as we approach the end of October. Today, we're going to be working on a project, a little pillow project called Triangle Treat. And the pattern, if you haven't downloaded already, is going to be, there'll be a QR code that will pop up, or there'll be a link in the comment section. Right there is our link if you're used to using the QR code. If you aren't familiar with that, it's just take your phone and shine it over that, and you tap on that and it'll take you right to it. You don't even type anything in. The wonder of technology. Our project today is all Halloween themed, but this is a project that you could use in many, many different genres of fabrics. So if Halloween isn't quite your thing, you could switch it over to Christmas, or you could do a fall theme. There are so many possibilities when we pick a pattern that really has some good, fun structure to it, but can be converted to a lot of different genres of fabrics. So if you've downloaded your pattern, and if not, grab something for some notes so that the little tips and tricks along the way that we talk about, that you'll remember that. And do remember that you can always go back to view the video later. Maybe you're seeing it and thinking, oh, I don't have time to sit down to watch the whole video. You can always come back and watch later. That's another wonder of technology. I'm Colleen Tauke, and I'm the designer of Triangle Treat. And for this project, I used a whole variety of scraps. You can see all of the different colors of fabrics in here. I've had these fabrics for a long time, so don't ask me about the availability on these. But I've been waiting because I had small pieces, and you might have had leftover pieces from a previous project, and your heart says, I just can't throw those away. Well, this might be the place to use them, because you just need small pieces to cut the triangles. And a variety is the idea here. When I started cutting, I thought, well, maybe I'll just use a few of these. And as I got into it, I mean, who would say no to using orange and green for sure? And you have to have black for contrast. But then that purple and the yellow, even a white background Halloween print, just decided had to be part of the project. And you can always add extra black on blacks or polka dots or plaids if you have those in your stash of fabric, so that you get a good variety. Smaller prints work best, I would say, so that you can kind of have a little fun. I did kind of fussy cut the black cat here so that the cat would be within the triangle, but other ones just kind of scatter prints, or like the little candy corn or the spiders or polka dots work really great in this project. So you need a variety. I did list in there that I have whites, purples, grays, greens, oranges, yellows, and blacks. So you could pick probably small prints of any of those and put together and make it kind of feel like it goes Halloween. You need at least a 4.5-inch strip to cut the triangle from. So if you're going through your scraps and you find one that's a 5-inch square, bingo, you've got a piece to go into your project. For the backing, you're going to need on the back side of this, because I quilted the top before I constructed my pillow, a 20-inch piece of backing to go on underneath this as you quilt it. And then for the pillow back, you'll need about 1/2 yard. And I just did a real simple lap back on the back of this so it can easily switch holidays. That way you don't have to store the entire pillow until next Halloween. You can pop it out and put a new one on there. And then about 1/6 of a yard or so of binding. I always like to list my binding separately because you do need to have some lengths. It's a lot easier to cut binding in strips. So I use this black and white polka dot, and you'll notice it's not in the top because I didn't have any big lengths left. So you can always add another piece. The more scrappy, the better is my mantra in this project. And then when it comes to your supplies, rotary cutter, cutting mat, ruler, all those things, this kind of your normal uh, tools, and best press or a spray starch or some kind of stabilizer, because if you're new to working with triangles, you're going to have a lot of bias edges. So I need to open my chat up there too, so we can see who all's listening and watching today. Remember to pop into the comment section and let us know where you're watching from, if Halloween's your thing, or if you've thought of another genre of fabric that you'd like to use. This pillow is using an 18-inch pillow form inside. And let's see, the one thing that you'll need is either this tool, or you can use the template that comes with the pattern. So we got a paper template here, but that is also the same shape as the Creative Grids 45-degree kaleidoscope or Dresden plate ruler. So if you've used that on a project in the past, this is the one I'm using for this project. Cynthia says, greetings from San Jose, California. Thanks for the adorable pattern. I love Halloween. Halloween's kind of a fun time. It's that fall crisp air, at least in Iowa, if we ever get below 80 degrees. And there's a little bit of fun involved. Nothing too scary. My kids always wanted to go scary, and I was like, no, we're having a little bit more fun here. Let's see. Kathy says hello and happy autumn from Saskatchewan, Canada. And we love throw pillows. It's a fun way to add a little bit of color to your environment and kind of keep with the holidays going on without having to change a lot of things in your home. So the 45-degree ruler we're going to be using to cut our triangles for this project. And if you don't have that, like I said, you have a paper template, and I will show you how you can either attach that to a ruler, or you can use the paper templates for making mylar or template plastic templates also. There's more than one way to do everything. So as quilters, we don't require that you purchase a tool, though many will find that these tools really come in handy, make cutting a lot faster. I know they're an investment. That's why we give you the paper ones, so that you can still have fun with the project and don't require a purchase. Let's see. Candy says she is from Linda from California, I think. Let's see. New subscribers from Southeast Georgia. We're so glad that you're joining us. Kay says greetings from Kansas City, Missouri. That's just my neighbor to the west and a little south. That's the fun about quilting. We are found all over the planet. As quilters, we love to create. We love to use color and fabric and texture. And I think the sky's the limit when it comes to the things that we create. So let's lay this back here. Here is kind of the smattering of fabrics that I had. And literally some of these don't have a lot left. I told you they were small pieces. But, you know, we as quilters don't throw anything away. We love to hold on to it just in case. And that just in case might be today for this project. Okay. We are going to be cutting a wide range. So 32 triangles go into this. And we're also going to have some half triangles to fill in the ends of the rows, because the pillow has to be square or rectangular when we're done. It may not be perfectly square, depending on the height of the triangle is a little taller than they are wide. So my pillow is actually a little on the rectangular side, but we've got fill-ins that go down the side, so we need some half triangles. That's why that template looks like this. We have some half fill-ins, and your pattern will tell you exactly how many of those we need to cut, and the cutting for the back and your binding. So let's get into preparing that template. So if you're going to go paper template, and I traced these onto some template plastic already. And always label them, because later you lay them to the side thinking you will remember, and then it's like, I wonder what project that went into. So triangle treat. And I also put on there 1 of 2, so 1 of 2, 2 of 2, so you always have the set when you're ready to go. So either by tracing these onto template plastic or cutting out the paper template, there is a way to use your actual ruler for cutting. So Kelly says hello from Arizona. Diane says hello from Eureka, California. You know what? I've actually been to Eureka, California before. This is her first quilting project, and it looks like such a treat. I love that you are joining us, and with watching and picking up the tips, I think you can accomplish this. Okay, I have some already cut out here in other fabrics. And I wanted to prove that you can use just about anything. So these are fabrics that are actually from the Tula Pink line. They're fun fabrics that are kind of zany and bright and cheerful. And, Halloween pillow, bright and cheerful. Let's do some extra ones in bright and cheerful. Okay, now, of course, we're going to demo this in just a second. But how to use those paper or plastic templates. Here's two different options. You can take that Mylar template, which has a rigid edge to it, and you can lay it on your strip. These are cut from a 4.5-inch strip. You can take a fabric marking tool, and you can mark both sides of that with the marking pen, and then go back with a ruler and cut along the lines, if that's the way that works for you. Everybody's brain works a little bit differently. Another way you can do this, if you want to be able to cut and not have to make the marks with a pen, is to tape the template under a ruler. It doesn't matter what kind of ruler, just put one of the diagonal edges along the cutting edge of the ruler. Now, it works best if you have 2 of these, so that your left and right sides, so you don't have to flip it. I've only done 1 here, but I'll flip the tool a second and show you how that works. Oops, I put my tape in the wrong place. I don't want to flap. I want it to stay on the back side. Now I can line up my strip, ignore the ruler, look at just where the template is. I'm going to line up my template with my strip, and I can cut one side of my triangle. So I can lay this on top of the strip using my paper template or the Mylar, whichever. Underneath there, I have now a cutting edge to do one side of my fabric. So now I have one edge cut. Now, if you were to trace 2 of these, will help a little bit. I can flip it to do, because I need to go this way and I need to cut the other side. So what I need to have is this template on this edge so I can cut the remaining edge. So if you actually trace 2 of them, it will make this go a little faster. You can put them along your ruler. And this is the way you can get by not having to buy another accessory. Now, I flip this around because I need to cut always on. I'm right-handed. I'm always cutting on the right-hand side of this ruler to be safe. Now I can lay this on top of the fabric again, lining up the top of the strip, the bottom of the strip, and my first cut. Now I can do the second cut. There we go. Whoops. I think I need a new blade. One little thread left behind. Okay. Now since I have 2 fabrics here that were back to back, I have 2 shapes cut. If you're a rookie at this, cut 1 layer at a time until you get a confidence level. Then you can layer fabrics, multiple strips, maybe not more than 4. You don't want the fabrics to shift. You want to have very accurate shapes, but you can cut multiples at once doing this. So that template under your standard ruler makes a great addition, or maybe I should say technique, for you to use templates, but use your rotary cutter and ruler, because we all know that's probably the most accurate way to cut shapes. You can do the same thing with the halves. Whenever you're cutting the half triangle, like this. Make sure that you remember you need left and right sides, okay? They're not all the same shape. So I know it's confusing, but there are pieces that go in here, and I have to think about it this direction, but then their mirror image is over here. So when you cut your half hex or half triangles, make sure if you're cutting two at once to put your fabrics back to back or face to face somehow, so you get mirror image, okay? And you need 8, I believe, mirror image pieces to fill in the ends of these rows. If you cut one wrong or cut a couple extras, it's not the end of the world. These are really small pieces. Just remember me telling you, you need to have mirror images so that you have your fill-ins for the ends of the rows. And it's the same idea as the cutting of this underneath. You just put this underneath, same thing, so that you get the fill-ins that you need using templates. Now, if you aren't using templates and you've gotten the tool, remember this is the 45 degree. It's not a pyramid ruler. It's not a 60 degree. Okay, this is a little bit different angle than that. You're going to want to always start. We're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to start with our right hand angle here and clean up. Always kind of start with that beginning, because I'm going to do my half, and you can do your half triangles that way too, by using this. But we can use either your template for your halves or the ruler. There is a double wide line down the very center, and that's the seam allowance. We need the seam allowance on there. If you're not sure where to cut on this ruler because it's new to you, lay it on the template, the paper template, so you can see which line I'm talking about. But you're going to lay that on your strip. It's made for different width strips, but we're using the 4.5 inch line. That's why I have my little cheat reminder that this is the 4.5 inch line, so that I set that at the bottom of my strip, making sure I have my seam allowance included there. And then I can cut along one side to begin my cutting. And here's where you're going to see, bingo, I have mirror image, okay? So now I have 2 ready to go for my pillow. These are not, if I turn this, these still are not the same triangle. So that's why I'm saying make sure that you get mirror image when you do this. And yes, you'll probably cut at least 1 or 2 extra of the wrong direction. It happens to all of us, but just remember I said mirror image. Now, since your cutting there is ready to go, and it should be a 45 degree angle, if at any point that seems to be just off a little tiny bit, you can always clean up cut by making it, this first cut's good. I'm going to go ahead then and shift my ruler around, and I can cut a second one if you'd like. But remember, scrappy in this project is best, so you're probably only cutting 1 or 2 from each fabric, not through the whole strip. So getting those pieces ready to go. And now I have, there's 4 triangles ready to go for my pillow top. We have a hello from Independence, Missouri, from Susie, I believe, if I read that properly. Tanya says, good morning from Norman, Oklahoma. Guess what? I lived in Norman, Oklahoma for a while. I know that town pretty well. And Diane says, if I don't have enough projects to sew, let's just throw another one into the mix. Hello from Traverse City, Michigan. And I have also been in Traverse City, Michigan before. That is fabulous. This is funny because all these towns are popping up. I'm like, we went on vacation. We went through Eureka. We drove through Traverse City and stayed overnight there. Wonderful. I love it that we can bring connections in our quilt community just by using the internet and letting each other know where we live. Let's see. We have enough pieces now that I can lay out 2 rows. So we are going to get into the sewing construction portion. Let me put my extra things away, our fancy ruler that we were using, and get down to the construction, because there's a little bit of a tip on how to adjust these rows so that It's a little different than we normally construct. Now, if it seems a little bit familiar to anyone, there is another project that I've done with a different angle triangle. It was called Love Triangle. We did a Halloween or a Valentine pillow in reds and pinks and whites. And I used the same color, kind of alternating rows in that. So you get a very, very different look in Love Triangle. And I used a different tool, but the technique is the same. So here we go. In order to put this together, when you join rows, you've got lots of seams coming together. And this, for some quilters, starts our heart to kind of flutter like, oh, am I going to ever get all of that joined nicely? So as I was thinking about it, we as quilters always want opposing seams, which means the seam allowances on the back from one row to the next go in different directions, so that when we join them together, we get that nice little fit, kind of a locking. And if we construct our rows and press in a certain direction, we can get that even when we do triangles. We do it a lot when we're working with squares and rectangles, but nobody ever really thought too much about the triangle. So here is how we're going to do the triangle one. In the first row, we're going to press all of our seam allowances this direction to the right. In the next row, we're going to press all of our seam allowances to the left. And we're going to actually start construction at a different point than we normally do. Usually a lot of us think left to right, left to right, left to right, just how we read. But in this case, we're going to start at a different spot, and that will cause a little confusion at the beginning, but you'll see what I mean when it comes to having things fit together. So I'm going to lay these out. This is the fun part. You can arrange your triangles however you like so that you get the kind of that mix of color and design. So I'm going to use a little bit different fabrics here. I'm going to use Tula, which is these bright, cheerful prints. And we're going to put together some rows. And we're going to talk about doing that left, right, left thing so that you can have the same fun of having all those interlocking seams pop up for you. Okay, now if I can get this arranged like I did the other night, I have a few that I got doubles of fabrics just because I really like that pink popping up in there. And there we go, the orange. Okay, here we go. Now, I have my halvesies too. Remember, we need the fill-ins out here. And because I'm using an even number, we're not using the same triangle on each end. So I'm going to put a green one. Let's see, I want to put the green one here and lime over here. And we'll put this one up here and this one down here. Okay. Mirror image, they're on different rows. So when you go lay it out, don't think, well, mirror image isn't happening in the first row. The mirror is on in the second row, okay? Because of the number of triangles we're using. Now, in the instructions, it says pick up the triangles in sequence, starting with the odd numbered rows. So we're going to work on row 1, and we're going to work from left to right. And then the even numbered rows are going to go from right to left. That is unusual. We don't usually work rows in that direction. So we really need to have things laid out so we can kind of keep our mind centered on what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to put together the first 2 pieces. Now, when it comes to putting these together, triangles are a little tricky. We're going to put right sides together. The ends aren't really cut for, in this case, for telling you exactly where to cut. We are going to be putting these together, and there will be little tiny triangles sticking out each end. That's okay. Remember, 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you're really new to quilting, you can always draw a 1/4 inch seam line on there. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not sure where my 1/4 inch seam needs to fall, but where the crisscross of the two different fabrics comes should be a 1/4 inch from the raw edge over, and then seam across this. So if you need to put in that little line, let's see, I've got a ruler that has a little cheat 1/4 inch line on there. If I were to go ahead and put in, I'm going to measure in a 1/4 inch, because I know that triangles can be tricky for everyone. Until you get really used to it, maybe this is the training wheels that can assist you in getting that triangle put together. Okay, I've put my 1/4 inch seam allowance on there. I've marked it so I know exactly where it's going to go. And you can do that with all the pieces until your brain kind of gets used to the distance and where it should line up. And then when you put your pieces right size together, that drawn line now, if I can get it to hold still in my hand long enough. Let me get one of my design boards here so you can see it. I know it's tiny, but that's the thing that you need to look for, is this little triangle of fabric on the underneath side, and your drawn line, your stitching line, should come right to where those crisscross. So you know you have it placed correctly. So your 1/4 inch seam goes straight across. Okay, let's get this going. And then we can pick up one at a time and keep adding. It's what's nice to have a space near your sewing machine so that you don't have to travel too far with pieces that can get you confused on which direction they're sewing. So here we go. Here we go, 1/4 inch. Now, cut thread, and whoops. My first piece joined on there, and you can see my seam on the back. And in my instructions, it tells me my seam allowance should go toward the red piece, the triangle piece. So making sure that you take the time to set your seam, which means just drop the iron onto it. And my iron did not warm up on me. Okay, well, we'll do it in the next step. I'm going to finger press for now. And something else you can use is a wooden iron. It's a bevel cut piece of wood that you can find a lot in quilt shops and quilt shows. And you can use that to smooth that seam. Once you get it opened up all the way to the stitching line, like this. And, oh, and I pressed it the wrong direction. Isn't that good? We're supposed to be pressing toward the triangle. So I'm going to flip it and do my corrective pressing. Make sure you follow the instructions. Okay, now we're going to add our second triangle. Again, looking for that 1/4 inch seam. Make sure that your raw edges are matched up right on top of each other. And then your best 1/4 inch seaming. Make sure that you've practiced that 1/4 inch seam really well. That best press or spray starch. If you're new to quilting, you may want to use a little bit of that on your fabrics before you cut your shapes out. That will kind of reduce the amount of shift or stretch on those diagonals, because those are all bias edges. But we've got our second one joined. Now that my iron is warmed up, we'll go back in and give it a good press. It really does help in this process to press as you go. It does keep things neat and tidy. Okay, drop the iron on that. Don't iron. Make sure you press and make sure the seam allowance is open all the way to the stitching line. Now, the double check here, if you've got this fairly accurate, is that the straight edge from piece to piece along one side will be a straight line. And from that cut edge to the intersection right at the top of that triangle there, it should be a 1/4 inch down. That's your 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? So you just keep adding those triangles. The more you do this, the better you get at it. And we're going to add a couple more so that we can talk about the opposing seams within that and how to match those up. The nice part about this is the way we've cut our triangles is off of straight piece of fabric, so that we know this is always a straight of grain on the short side of this triangle. That means that our piecing has much more structure. If you're working off of scraps and you don't know where your grain line is, look for the weave of the fabric so that the bottom portion of the triangle you put on the straight of grain, and that will give your quilt, your piecing, more integrity. It doesn't have as much stretch up and down or side to side. So we don't want to set that template on just willy-nilly, because our pieces will have a lot of stretch in directions we don't really want them to have. So I'm pressing all of my seam allowances in one direction, and according to the diagram, I'm pressing them all to the right in the proper direction. Now, when we get down to the second row, we're going to do the same thing of right sides together, but we're going to make sure that we're going to start from the other end. So I'm going to start midway through the row, but I would normally start all the way at the far end. I need to get something to match up to this, so we're going to start mid-row, and we're going to press all the seam allowances toward the left. And in our brains, that's something that's kind of like, have to remember it. Sometimes when I'm working on something like this, I will put a pin in to remind me that the tip of the pin is going in the direction I need to assemble things. You could put a Post-it note on your cutting mat as a reminder, or just keep that directions, the diagrams close at hand, so that you remember which direction you're pressing your seam allowances, and then you get that opposition for the joining of rows. Kelly, another Michelangelo here from the Lansing area, interested in doing this in either fall colors or colors that match the room, or maybe Christmas colors. Hey, Christmas colors would be so much fun. And you could do colors that match your decor. Maybe you have, let's see, I'm thinking of my daughter's because she's moving soon. She has a teal colored sofa. She uses rust accents with a lot of cream and natural colors. So you could easily put together rows of fabrics that go with those to go with the environment in your room. I have a lot of blue gray in my living room. So blue gray and light gray would be, or even white would be the perfect color combination there. So you could make pillows that really complement the room or a bedroom. Or you could use the leftover scraps from a mystery quilt to make our mystery challenge to make a quilt or a pillow that matches that project. There's so many different ways to use up the fabrics that we have. Leftover scraps themed for holidays. That's a great way to go at it. I see that the link for Love Triangles has been put up, so that if you're interested in a little bit different shape or more planned design, you can always use the instructions for that, of how many of each triangle to cut to create that design. Okay, we're going to put this last one on here so we can talk about joining these two rows. And I know when I was first beginning to work with angles, that like triangles that are different, it was a little bit scary. But once I learned the 1/4 inch seam placement so that I made sure that my rows stayed straight, the assembly kind of just fell into place. It didn't seem as difficult as I envisioned in my imagination. Sometimes that can get the best of us. And I've even seen a comment from a quilter who said, I would never have tried that on my own. I've never gone past squares and triangles before, but learned that by trying something new, they found a new adventure in quilting. And that opens up so many new doors, so many new possibilities and designs. So if you're outside your comfort zone, sometimes you find fun. Okay, the idea when we're putting these together, remember, is that these cut edges stay parallel through the process, as parallel as possible anyway. They may not be absolutely perfect, but close. You're going to have little triangle pieces down here. Those little dog ears can be trimmed off as you work, as you put these together. But now, as we join row 1 to row 2, this is where the fun really comes into, like, ooh, I did that, because you can feel the layers locking up against each other the same way as when you make a 4-patch and you have opposing seams. The seams in one row are going all one direction, the other row the opposite, and that's how you get the joins that give you nice points along the way. Now, if you're at all worried about it, maybe your piecing wasn't absolutely perfect, there's always a way to get things to go together without having to tear out your work. The pin matching. So on the back side, you've got seams that crisscross. That is the top of the triangle on the other side. Put the point of your pin through that intersection, double checking that that's the top of my triangle on the other side. Pin match the same way you would for a 4-patch or a 9-patch if you're putting it together, is to drop a pin through the point in one row, the point on the other you want it to join to. Remember, that's the North Pole. Leave it in place. Take another pin. Now weave that through the layers to hold it in place. As you're going to go back to stitch, you can take the North Pole pin out now, and then you can do your 1/4-inch seam. The crisscross of those threads where you've joined your triangles together, that's the sweet spot you should be aiming for. As you do your 1/4-inch seam through here, that crisscross is what you want to hit so that you'll get a point on each of your triangles. If it's close, it also counts. There's nothing that says every triangle has to be perfectly pointy. So 1/4-inch seam there, and then you can go in and press your seams open and create your version of triangle treat. Now, when I did my top, I got done and I thought, there are so many prints. How do I quilt this? So I layered up my patchwork, my batting, and my backing fabric. It can just be a scrap of something inexpensive for the back because no one's going to see it. And I just used my walking foot, my even feed foot, and I did a light gray thread, because thread color also makes a difference on how much impact it has on the overall finished product. And I decided to just do outline 1/4-inch from each of the seams throughout the entire pillow top. Okay, so that was enough to hold the batting in place, give it that quilted look, but without going overboard. And it's for the holidays. You want it done fast. And straight lines, when you have something to follow, 1/4-inch from all the way through, is a simple, clean way to finish out a pillow top. Let's see. Robbie says, hello from Colorado. I can't see it quick. Melina says, hello from Scotland. We are glad that you're joining us. Barb says, hello from Minnesota, and that's where I'm headed next for some tapings. Kelly says another, oh, I already got Kelly in there earlier on a comment. So finish with your lap back. The instructions are quite simple, and we do have videos on how to do lap back pillows so that you can finish and put your pillow form in there. Always purchase a pillow form larger than the finished size of your pillow, because this pillow finishes, got to double check my dimensions. It always lists it on the front cover of the pattern. Oh, nope, not there. Okay, so maybe the dimensions didn't get in this one. This one finishes, and let's measure it really quick with the ruler line. Here we go. I think it's, yeah, 15, about 15 by 16. And I put an 18-inch pillow form, I believe, in here. Yep, 18 is what I called for. The reason why is that an 18-inch pillow form will fill all the way to the outer edge and make your pillow nice and full and not have kind of empty corners or empty edges. If I bought a 16 by 16, it would barely fit inside that and it wouldn't feel as firm. So I always go up one size when you're purchasing your pillow form to finish off. And I layered this in the instructions. It tells you how to layer the pieces and then put binding along the outer edge, thinking of it as a quilt. It turns out to look like piping on your pillow. It's an easy finish for a quick project. We are glad that you're joining us. Remember, we are bringing you Halloween themed projects, easy ones, wood projects, felt projects. I think there might be some recipes out there too that I've seen, knitting, crochet kinds of projects all through October. So join us for more Halloween themed fun.